and welcome to Trading Boundaries Fine Art, where we've just launched this year's Roger Dean exhibition, which is entitled Pathways. It is a truly, truly wonderful exhibition this year. And before I go any further, I must extend our thanks to our friends at Prog Magazine for sponsoring the event. So Jerry Ewing and the team, if any of you are watching, I really hope you are. Hello and thank you. We really hope to see you before the end of the show. But seeing people, obviously, right now is really, really difficult. We can't believe the timing of this. So the exhibition has launched just in time for the UK to be locked down. So because you can't come to see us, we thought it would be a really good idea if we could actually bring the exhibition to you. So tonight is the first of several guided tours where Roger will actually be talking you through the art displayed this year. We really, really hope you enjoy watching. As always, send in your questions. Christabel will be taking care of that. But for now, we really hope you enjoy the show. So, just coming through here, this is the start of the exhibition.
Do you have a microphone, Roger?
Yes.
Do you want to find it?
I haven't got one.
Okay, you might need to speak really loudly.
Okay. Does Ollie have a spare microphone? So you won't have one either? No. Okay. I'll talk loudly. Can people hear me?
I will let you know in 20 seconds.
Alright. Okay. So this painting is a version of the Close to the Edge painting. The original was damaged, and I had the choice of repairing the damage or repainting, and I decided at the very least I did want to repaint it. So I've done a couple of versions, and we're working on more paintings because we're going to do a great deal more of the narrative of the Close to the Edge story, and hopefully put it all out in a box set at some time in the near future. It's not all sorted by any means, but there's a 50th anniversary of Close to the Edge coming up. So that's a kind of a target date. And this is the third of several paintings that were done for that project. So it's also, I really love working on it this size. The original was quite small. It was about, well, it was exactly 24 inches by 12, which was in the days when I had the patience to do very tiny heads. This is much looser, but it still looks as crisp as, in fact, it looks a great deal more crisp than the original. So, and I hate to say it, but
You could be even louder.
Could do with what?
You could be even louder.
Ah, oh dear. Okay, so this is a project that was done. I was asked to work on a project to design a moon base in Hawaii. And it's a serious project, it's a big team. And I was involved because they wanted the knowledge I had from college research onto what kind of spaces make people feel safe and secure. A moon base will be facing a whole slew of really awful physical dangers. Extreme cold, extreme heat, radiation, micrometeorites, moonquakes, a vacuum. It's a dangerous place. And basically the base will be like a high-tech prison, and mental health was an issue. So that was my original involvement in the project. Now this is an idea that got abandoned for a whole bunch of reasons. So this isn't anything like the current proposal that we're working on. But as the painting was done, it's here in the exhibit. One of the things anyone who knows anything about the moon would say, all these rocks look eroded, and there is no source of wind or water to do that kind of erosion on the moon. But it is feasible to have an underglass garden, or even an underground one. So our current thoughts are more like a cave with a garden underground.
Okay, so we're getting some comments. Some people hear the audio fine, and some people don't. I can only apologise. This is how we're going to have to be for today. So I hope that you can hear for the majority of some people can hear fine, and some can't.
I can hear you better than me.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I will do my best to speak louder.
Project.
Project, yes. But the microphone must be on your side of the phone.
I don't know where it is on your phone.
Hiding somewhere.
Hiding.
Okay, this was a painting done for Yes. The painting is called Mesa, and it was a live album. But what was fascinating for me is that this shape, I was driving across the Pennines in England after being at a conference on animation at Newcastle University. And I was with a friend driving across the Pennines back to Manchester. And we crossed as dawn was coming up. And there was a power station in the distance. And it had this plume of steam, possibly because it was white. And it rose until it hit a layer of moving air. So that was, we stopped the car and I sketched it for about 10, 20 minutes. And that was very much based on that sketch. There are other elements in this painting. The rock from Avebury that features in Tales from Topographic Oceans. So there are a little bit of references to other stuff. But I love the shape and the power of that thing that was made of smoke. Of course, I've hardened it up. I've given it an architectural edge. But it was very much at the beginning. It was about the shape. Are there any questions, by the way?
No questions yet. Do send in your questions, other than comments about microphones, because we don't have any right now.
Yes. Yes, that was silly. Yeah. For some reason I thought there would be, but there you go. We're going to look at the pictures in this room this week. Next week we'll go and see there's a number of other rooms here, and we'll have another look, and if necessary we might revisit some of these with a microphone. I'm very sorry. Okay. We have an online class, and this is one of the demonstration pieces from that. I think that's right. It's based on a painting I did a long time ago that got lost. The painting was called Land's End. I did a repeat of Land's End. This one is called Finisterre, which is the same, means the same, but said in French, and the rocks in the foreground to give that space going back.
How did the original close to the edge painting get damaged, Roger?
I don't remember how it was originally damaged, but it had two significant tears in it. And my plan to repair it amounted to remounting it, filling in the tears, because they were missing bits of painting, and then repainting it. I might do that one day, but at the moment, I haven't the energy. I should have.
How do you get the stone to look so realistic?
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. It's what I do.
Practice. Years and years of it.
There you go. Quite a few years.
Does painting for an album cover affect how you look at composition?
No. No. I make the composition work for the painting and then make the design for the album cover work. So we're coming to this painting. So Christabel is using all her dancing skills to move slowly around with the camera. This was again, it grew out of some exercises we were doing in the online class, and I thought, okay, this could work as an album cover. So it was an album cover for
You're looking at me like I have all the answers.
I'm looking at me as if I do. Yeah, it's called Island Ferry. It was done for the Flower Kings. And I don't know why I have to look at it to remind myself of the titles, but there you go. It happens that way. Yes, this was for Flower Kings, and that was I really enjoyed that album. So that was a very nice surprise project. I hadn't expected to be asked, and I was, and it was. Their album was called Islands, and I thought this would work for it. So a nice, happy coincidence, if you like.
How did you plan the hanging of this show?
I didn't really. Michael, most of the hanging on this. We had a few discussions about moving pictures, but basically it was choices.
Have you got plans for a US exhibition next year?
Yes. As a matter of fact, we do. And you know, the way things are going, it was going to be early spring, and that is very unlikely now. But it may not get postponed beyond the year. It might just be later in the year. In the last conversation I had, we were talking summer, so it's not a done deal, it's not a fixed date. But it looks to me at this point very likely. And I haven't had a permanent show, it's not permanent, but a long-term show in America for quite a while. Most of them have been one-day affairs. So this is going to be a bit longer. I don't know. More than a few days, maybe a few weeks, possibly a few months, I don't know. Website once we have got everything confirmed. Okay, so this is a painting done, this is a rough, I shouldn't call it rough. This is a colour sketch for painting that was done for the Steve Wilson remixes of yes. And it was called The Edge of the Forest. And I was looking at the giant sequoias when I painted these. So these trees very much were inspired by giant sequoias. And there's all the people. I like this because the paint moved very nicely for me. It sort of came together quickly and easy, and I like that looseness of paint. Can you see? Go quite close in on something like this. I think in many ways the sketch here did in fact work better than the finished painting, because it's quicker and looser, and there was a quality in that speedy looseness that I really liked. So yeah, all the movement of the brushes, that's all there was. And not much longer than that, and then highlighting it, and it was done. I don't know if the original idea wasn't an accident, but it was a sketch in my sketchbook going back at least 15, 20 years. And I kept looking at it and thinking, what on earth was I thinking when I did that? What was going to happen here? And I could never remember, but I liked the shape enough, and I thought, okay, it's got a new home, a new purpose.
When you touch the painting directly, Roger, is that harmful for the painting?
Well, one of the beauties of this is that it's acrylic on linen, and if I get a mark on it, I can get a warm, wet cloth and wipe it off. Something you could not do with a watercolour. So if this was a watercolour, it would have glass over it, and it would not be permitted to touch it, because yes, you would do absolute damage to a watercolour, which would be incredibly hard to repair. This, not so. So I'm not inviting everyone to touch them, but it's much more forgiving, the acrylic paintings. Aha, we have something here that's slipped in its frame, but you can still see the drawing. So this is the lettering done for an album that came from, an Asia album, that came from a festival called High Voltage in London. So this is an odd mix of finished paintings, colour sketches and pencil drawings in here.
Do you mainly work with acrylic?
Yes, but not by a huge margin. I mostly work in pencil, to be honest. But when it comes to doing colour work, acrylic more than watercolour, but only just. I mean, this, for example, is watercolour. And the glass. What I was looking at here, I was looking at some wonderful old photographs of the Forth Bridge and the building of it. And I called this the bridge. And I was looking at some of the geometric shapes and just displacing them and playing around with it. So I was imagining above this there would be more than just a bridge, probably a habitable bridge like the Ponte Vecchio, but instead of just a few homes, perhaps a whole city on this bridge. It's big enough. It would be, and that was my idea, the thought behind this. Yeah, and yes, it would be a very hard thing to fix marks on watercolour. I definitely wouldn't like to have to do that. This is a sketch done for, what was it for? The painting was Arches, which was the it was an odd album that was half live and half recorded in the studio. And they were doing it where John lived in St. Louis Obispo. And it was a four CDs in the whole thing, but this was the first one, and it had these arches. And I think this was for a poster, I can't remember.
have a solution. These have got a microphone on them. If you want to just Bluetooth them to your phone.
My problem isn't hearing. My problem is the people hearing me.
Yeah, these got microphones in them. So if you just if you push your Bluetooth on that and pair these to there, they'll pick up the microphone on this.
Not sure if I can pair it whilst being on live video.
You know what these look like, don't you?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, but it's got to be paired to the phone for them to work.
I think I'd have to go away from the video. I think that I might lose the video if I do.
Good idea. But
They can hear you, it's just sort of dipping in and out.
yes, okay.
Hi, Christabel. Do you know?
Yeah.
Can you go off this while you're live? Might be best to take a small pause and then restart, guys.
What, do you want me to finish the video and then come back?
Well, we've had people saying that the audio isn't loud enough.
Yeah.
So we thought if we used some mics and an earpod, a guy very kindly suggested on the chat that actually that might be for the best for the audio. But it will take just 30 seconds to set it up.
Okay, we're going to warn everybody there's going to be a short hiatus while we experiment with black magic and see if we can get the sound better.
Please pause your videos on this nice picture. Okay, we're good.
Fantastic. Okay, are we actually being heard?
This is the $1,000,000 question. We now have microphones that look like this.
Right, earbuds.
We'll find out in approximately 10 seconds.
Okay. So we're going to talk about this picture, if it's possible that we're being heard.
I think they can hear us.
Good, thank God.
Thank you.
Sorry about this. We wouldn't know where we were though if we weren't having some technical new glitch each week. Okay, microphones. I'll get that one there again. This is also a watercolour. This is a painting for Down Sprague Association's 4th album called Helsin Hymns. And the idea of the halcyon days image that I have is something very arcane. The mythology, though, does involve the Kingfisher. And the story is that the halcyon days represent a period of calm that the gods made for the Kingfisher. So she could lay her eggs, make a nest and lay her eggs in the winter storms in the sea. A really fantastic image, but I went for something more Arcadian and summery. So there is a painting of Kingfisher, which we'll get to, but that went into it was combined with the logo. So this is the basic painting, and it's a village in a forest on a pond. And it was an experiment. I had no idea what it was going to look like when I started. You know, I painted those trees and the rest was green, and there was no clear idea in my mind where it was going to go. So it kind of evolved as I painted it, which was okay. I'm glad it actually came out, but it was a risk. A very green watercolour. We have the high voltage again in its final black and white drawn version. So that's done with a pen and an ink. The first one we saw was pencil. This is another painting of the sequence that was done for Steve. So it's the bridge theme still. We're looking at massive iron and steel structures hanging down from an even bigger overhead structure that's either side. Here's the geometry, the colour, and the implication that there was something unbelievably massive lurking around. So that was the kind of motivation behind the painting. Again, I'm not really treating watercolour fairly. It's not an ideal medium for flat colour. That's what I was going for. So the idea here is to get it looking flat-ish. This too needs a story. So several of these paintings have a narrative that's hidden. I'm going to come over here, right behind you, Abigail. So if you can turn around
without being startled.
Can you come over here?
Yeah.
Well, shall we talk about the Kingfisher?
I think we should, because I can see a kingfisher.
So this is the Kingfisher I mentioned when we were looking at the Helsin Hymns, the DVA album cover. So the Kingfisher is, as I said, part of the logo, but it's a separate, independent painting. And it's as realistic as I could make it. Sometimes with animals I do mix and match them. You know, the dragonflies with the moth coloration and tropical fish. Sorry, moth patterns and tropical fish coloration. But here, this is a kingfisher, as near as I could make it, a kingfisher. Where we live, we have the River Ooze. And the name will give you a clue about what it looks like. It's muddy, and it's tidal, and it's been called that for more than 1,000 years. But it has no kingfishers because they need still clear water so they can actually see the fishes below the surface. And our local river that is not a possibility. Besides being muddy and tidal, it's very murky. You think you can come and see this? I feel very tempted to take it straight off the wall and show you. This was based on the central feature of painting. And what I was looking to do was to do a watchtower, which is what this arguably could have been in the Relais painting, but to make a watchtower that had a kind of Celtic and primeval look to it. So then part of the tower were mammoth heads, mammoth skulls.
It's very Lion King elephant graveyard.
Oh, well, but mammoths. Yes.
Mammoth elephant graveyard.
I'm going to walk that way.
Okay. I'm going to follow you like a creepy person.
Okay. So in 2008, Freya and I worked on a project in Italy, Terra del Lago, the home base of Puccini. And it was the 150th anniversary, Puccini's 150th anniversary, and they were putting on his first full-length opera, Edgar, which is hardly ever done. But they were going to do it for this anniversary, and Freya and I were working on it. I was doing the sets and Freya was doing the costumes. And we did a poster to, I suppose, to express the combination of her work and mine. So this doesn't have any of her work on it, but the poster did. She designed the characters and the costumes, and they were on the combined poster. So this is basically a 14th century village, and castle stroke city in the background, which is arguably the setting of Edgar. I love doing this, by the way. It was a weird one for me that I really did like. I like that you're looking at the village now, but that was in itself something that was a lot of fun to do and imagine. But there was other bits in it too. So there was this structure, which is a shrine. So it's got the Virgin Mary in the top with lighted candles. So there's a bridge and a path to the village. Getting it all in, making it work as a whole. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
What medium is this?
This is acrylic, but it's acrylic painted like watercolour. So I've diluted it so much here, it's very transparent and very luminous. But here, this part is painted very solidly in acrylic, so opaque. For me, it was a new experience, painting layers and layers of trees, and I put things in there, and then I hid that with the trees. So underneath the trees, there is a well, a pathway, leading up to the bridge, and then into the village.
Did you hide it because you didn't want it in the finished painting, or because you wanted it to be there but hidden?
Yeah, the latter. I wanted it to be there, but it didn't need to be seen. It just had to be there. So, a hidden narrative. And it's meant to look relatively precise, and it is, to a degree. The next painting I want to look at is almost the opposite, because this one is me pretty much discovering a new way of painting in watercolour. I had a very heavy piece of watercolour paper, 638 grams, and I painted layer upon layer of ultramarine. So this painting is, I don't know, 5 or 6 very dense layers of ultramarine watercolour. And then the painting, this city, the album was called Skyscraper Souls. But I painted it in water, basically, washing off the paint. And, you know, I would wash off the paint of the main structure and then wash off what was left on the forward structures, so I could get quite a few layers by successively washing off the paint. And to me, it kind of worked. It was a very much a playful process. I had no idea how it would finish up, but I liked the way it worked. I guess for me, a few years ago, when I started doing watercolours again, it was all very much about experimenting. And in this case, a brand new type of paints made by Martin Graham, which have an incredibly dense colour. I love the density of the colour.
Do you pick your colour palettes in advance, or do you make it up as you go along?
Both, but in this particular case, I was just in love with that ultramarine blue, and I thought. So that was very much driven by wanting to play with that incredibly rich colour and see how this type of watercolour paint worked. And it is different to what I was used to. I use paints like Old Holland and so on, which are essentially pigment mixed with gum arabic, but these are mixed with honey, and the honey does allegedly, but I'm very convinced of it, give a much denser colour. So it was terrific. It didn't feel like watercolour in terms of the density of the colour. It was very like watercolour in terms of how it behaved on the paper.
Will you be extending the exhibition any longer?
Well, who knows what's going to happen, but it's definitely a discussion, but it's not a decision. So that's where we are on that. Watch this space. We're only going to look at this room and a little bit of the other room next door now, but we're going to come back and do more of it next week. There's 3 more rooms to look at. So we'll just walk back into where you started. And we're finishing here. But this is a print of a painting I did. And the painting was called Shadowland. And again, inspired by the American deserts, that very hot, horizontal morning light. It's a combination of rock forms from different places, but all of them, to some degree, existed, but not in that combination. And the same with the trees. The trees are all real portraits of real trees. Come back next week. We're going to look upstairs at the main gallery. And did you get that picture?
No.
One of a series I've done on the theme of the fragile album. Yes, we'll be back next week. The exhibition is open for 2 months officially, but of course lockdown has screwed that up. So I don't know if lockdown will end on the 2nd of December, allegedly it will. Before lockdown kicked back in, Trading Boundaries were having people come and giving them time slots to look around to keep social distancing. So they thought that was kind of working. Whether they'll open before Christmas, I don't know. But we will put something up on Facebook about that, and on the website, in fact everywhere, about whether it's accessible, whether the building is accessible. But we've done this for quite a few years now, and it's a brilliant experience. And Michael and Tracy have taken advantage of the lockdown to renovate the whole building, so it's looking pretty neat. So when you can come next, I definitely recommend it. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, and good night.
Thank you.